What is the darkest fan theory you know about? Inspector Gadget. We all assume that Penny's uncle is like RoboCop, injured as a police officer and equipped with new cybernetic limbs with cool new gadgets, provided to him by the police department and Chief Quimby, which allows him to fight the super-villain, Dr. Claw. But, there's a dark fan theory out there that the Inspector Gadget we're following is really a robot that believes he's the original. The Chief is in on this conspiracy to hide the truth from the public and from his niece. Penny's real uncle was horribly disfigured and left with a permanently low, raspy voice. He's angry that this robot has taken his place and taken his life, so he's vowed to destroy this new Inspector Gadget. Dr. Claw is the original Inspector Gadget. In Murder, She Wrote, Jessica is an itinerant serial killer who framed innocent people. The real place that Bikini Bottom is based on isn't far from a nuclear testing site. The characters in the show are radiation-mutated sea creatures. In The Incredibles, Edna Mode's iconic line, "No capes," and the anger she shows when someone mentions them might be a PTSD showing. Just put yourself in her shoes. You're the most renowned superhero costume designer, as far as we're told, and you keep seeing the news covering the deaths of superheroes, which were caused by the very capes you added to their costumes. Imagine her going to each of their funerals, probably blaming herself for indirectly and unwillingly of course causing her clients' premature deaths. Especially Stratigales, who, according to actual movie canon was a teenager when she got sucked into the jet turbine. And yet, it was likely that she gave just one more person a cape after all of that. You see, there's a very common theory that Syndrome knew who Edna Mode was, considering his obsession with being a superhero and Mr. Incredible in particular, who was himself Edna's client. She would be his most logical choice for a suit maker, due to said obsession. And she, being who she was, probably knew that Syndrome would be no hero seriously, just look at his suit and that he'd have to be stopped. So, she gave the heroes a little help indirectly and willingly by giving Syndrome a cape she knew would probably lead him to his own demise. So, in summary, Edna's designs killed many heroes yet also killed one supervillain, and possibly saved the world. Gilligan as the devil. The other passengers are the 7 deadly sins. Ginger as lust, Mary Ann as envy, Thurston Howell as greed, Mrs. Howell as sloth, the professor as pride, the skipper as both gluttony and rage, and Gilligan as the devil keeping them all stuck there by constantly bungling any possibility of their getting off the island. That Goofy's wife died horribly after giving birth to Max. The humans in Wall-E unknowingly engage in cannibalism. The ships haven't returned on Earth. No replenishing food supply. That is obvious. People don't live forever. Taste of food as disguised best in liquid form. All food as a smoothie of some kind. Edit. I knew cannibalism looked wrong but couldn't for the life of my figure out why. My bad. That the island in Thomas the Tank Engine is a dystopian society, where tales of the horrible world outside are used to browbeat the sentient trains into obedience. The reason you meet Gary Oak in Lavender Town during the original Pokémon games is because his Raticate died from its injuries after your last encounter in Vermilion City, and he's there to lay his fallen partner to rest. Wilson from Castaway is also the volleyball in Top Gun. In Harry Potter, when Voldemort kills Berta Jorkins, he does not only kill her but possesses the unborn child in her belly. That is why in Goff, when Harry sees him in the graveyard before he has dropped into Wormtail's potion, he is just a bundle, like a misshapen baby. I think in an interview, J.K. Rowling said she doesn't want to disclose what happened to Berta because it was too gruesome. That is why I think this theory sparked. In Shrek, Donkey is a survivor victim of Pleasure Island from Pinocchio, where boys are turned into donkeys. Pinocchio's appearance in Shrek confirms the same universe, but since he's still a puppet, hasn't gone to Pleasure Island yet. Donkey keeps his mouth shut about the atrocities there. In The Office US version, it is referenced several times through the first seasons that a guy who worked there killed himself shortly before the series started, and he was replaced by Ryan. So the theory states that The Office was supposed to be a documentary about how the suicide of a coworker affects life at the office. This documentary is essentially the first season, which has a darker atmosphere and a more depressing tone than the rest of the series. After the documentary was presented to the producers, they saw a potential comedy with those characters and decided to keep filming, but this time the show would present a brighter aesthetic in order to make it more enjoyable. The creepypasta from Animal Crossing. The Gyros slowly turn you into an animal, hence the crossing, and this is the reason you're the only human in the island. Tom Nook knows about this, but it's powerless to stop it, so he tries to ease you into it with pointless quests. Jason Bourne and James Bond exist in the same universe. 007 is an MI6 project where they take an exceptional volunteer from the SAS or other elite background and augment them into a sort of secret super soldier. They brainwash them to allow them control of the subject, but implant them with false memories of childhood and use actors where necessary so that the subject doesn't crack from an existential crisis. There are multiple James Bonds, hence the movies, each a replacement. Jason Bourne is the failed subject of an American spy commando program intended to replicate the 007 program. That all the Winnie the Pooh characters represent different mental illnesses. Kind of a creepy rabbit hole to go down. In Hey Arnold, Helga Pataki's mother, Miriam, is an alcoholic. Whenever things get stressful she declares, "I need a smoothie." She's always waking up in odd places around the house or napping on the couch. Slurring her words and general klutz. One time she accidentally packs Helga shaving cream for lunch. Every time you beam somewhere in Star Trek, you are killed and a new you is materialized. Portal's Doug Ratman and the companion cube with dead bodies inside thing. There are some disturbing Game of Thrones Asuiaf theories out there. One that comes to mind is Jojen paste. I don't recall the details, but it essentially claims that the three-eyed raven essentially fed Bran his companion Jojen Reed off-screen. Another is Bolton, which states that Roose Bolton is an immortal who takes the faces of his hears and has been Lord Bolton for a really long time. Kevin from Home Alone grows up and becomes the Jigsaw killer. Clownfish have the ability to change sex in one-sex environments, so Marlin is finding Nemo to mate with him. The Jetsons and the Flintstones take place around the same time. The Jetsons live in the sky to escape the destroyed civilization below, and the Flintstones are rebuilding the civilization, which explains stuff like vending machines and construction equipment in the Stone Age. Richie Rich's parents had a huge financial downturn, and to preserve their lifestyle, they killed Richie and collected his life insurance. He became Casper the Friendly Ghost, which is why they look similar. There was one about iCarly being the successor to Drake and Josh because Carly was the two brothers' little sister that was kidnapped by the crazy bowling alley guy. It's been a few years since I watched either show, so I can't remember any of the side characters' names. The train, Snowpiercer, was built by Willy Wonka. That Charles Xavier uses the X-Men as disposable pieces in his real-life game of chess, and if he wanted to he could use his powers to stop most villains. That Tom Bombadil is in fact the darkest and most evil power in Middle-earth. https://km-515.livejournal.com/1042.html. The first Hunger Games book is Katniss's true account of her first games. The second book is true, up to the point where the District 13 people turn up to save the day in their flying machines. The third book is complete fiction. There's no one in District 13. There's no revolution. The books are Katniss's fantasy version of events written as she sits alone in the Victor's Village in District 12, after winning her second Hunger Games by killing PETA. My Neighbor Totoro. The cat bus is a death god only seen by those who are about to die. One of the stops on the cat bus's route translates as, path to the grave. The theory goes on to suggest that Mei actually drowns in the pond at the end, and Satsuki, so consumed by grief and guilt, takes her own life. Mei and Satsuki riding the bus at the end is them journeying to the afterlife. Pretty dark emo. In Midsomer Murders, Joyce Barnaby is a serial killer. She provides the bodies for her husband to detect. Tyrion is the bastard of the Mad King Aerys, who was jealous of Tywin, with his beautiful wife Joanna and healthy twins Jaime and Cersei, after Aerys' wife had so many miscarriages and stillborn children. So he raped Joanna, which is why Tywin quit his job as Hand of the King and went back to Castle Rock, and why he hated Tyrion so much. P.S. Sorry for any name misspellings, it's been a while since I read the books. That Kevin from Home Alone is Jigsaw from the Saw movies. I actually like this theory. In the very dark Buffy episode, Normal Again, the storyline involves two realities that Buffy is bouncing between, one where magic and vampires exist and she is a superhero, and one where she a normal girl who has had a psychotic break. While as a viewer of the show we want the real world to be the one filled with the characters we have grown to love over the past 6 seasons, the final shot of the episode is Buffy's father consoling her crying mother as they pan back away from the catatonic Buffy, lost in her psychosis. The dark theory, like quite a few others here, is that she isn't a superhero, magic and vampires aren't real, and that she has just created an elaborate story in her mind that is preferable to the real world. Fireman Sam. Norman Price is always getting in trouble, which requires the intervention of Fireman Sam. It's almost as if he's acting out to get attention from Sam, who happened to be the only ginger male, besides Norman, in Pontypandy. Does it make you wonder where Norman's father could be? Wasn't really a fan theory. It was a writer on show theory. One of the writers of The Shield, the guy who went on to create Sons of Anarchy, wanted the last time one saw the detective Dutch was him going to his average house, pour himself some milk, go into the basement, where he has half a dozen different women in cages or bizarre bondage devices. This was scotched correctly emo by showrunner creator, saying that while he could understand there may have been hints Dutch had issues, this extreme ending hadn't been earned. Toby was the Scranton stranger. The Dursleys were so horrid to Harry because his being a Horcrux altered their personalities. Doctor who drove Vincent van Gogh to suicide. In the episode, Vincent and the Doctor, the date given for the Doctor's arrival in France is just a few weeks before Van Gogh's death. However, after seeing Vincent's mental state, and realizing that even his endless optimism can't help, he laments that the artist will be dead in a few months. By bonding with Vincent, showing him the tremendous success that he would never see in his lifetime, and becoming yet another example of people who care about him that won't stick around, the Doctor hastened Van Gogh's mental decline. Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Why do only kids find the tickets? Why let them near dangerous machinery? Why seem the Oompa Loompas to know pretty precisely what is going to happen in the near future? Soon this girl who was so vicious will have gotten quite delicious, and her parents will have surely understood that instead of saying, Miranda, oh the beast we cannot stand her, they'll be saying, oh, how tasty and how good, and #X200B, Willy Wonka is a child murderer. Mr. Krabs uses his daughter's real parents in Krabby Patties and is fattening her up for when they run out. Avril Lavigne killed herself in 2003 and was replaced by doppelganger named Melissa Vandella. Rise of the Planet of the Apes is a spiritual sequel to Harry and the Hendersons. In Wind Waker, the teacher is a serial killer who is feeding students to a Gibdo. Namely based on the fact that she gives you keys to her house, in which there is a crawl space only kids can get through with said monster. When I was 16, I had a friend suggest that the meat the kids are hunting in Lord of the Flies was actually other little kids that weren't part of the group. I never looked at that book the same way again. Charlie Brown has cancer. Edit. Just to clarify, I am not saying that it's a theory, I believe it's just the only one I could remember from the top of my head. Insert main character, S, were actually dead, dreaming the whole time. The pyro from TF2 is not insane, but on a massive cocktail of drugs to keep him a killing machine on the battlefield without knowing it. Darth Jar Jar. The one about Dr. Doofenshmirtz being Phineas' real dad. Evil Morty is Rick from C-137's original Morty. The Morty we have come to know and love is Rick's do-over after he screwed up his first Morty. Hermione Granger knew the outcome of being captured by the Centaurs and did nothing to help Dolores Umbridge's fate. The Flintstones take place after the Jetsons, a result of civilization crashing and reverting to the Stone Age. In The Incredibles, when Stratigale died, she caused the deaths of all the people on the plane she tried to save, including that one guy who saw her get sucked into the engine. Thanks for watching. See you later.